Hi,
Hello,
I'm Julian.
I'm Coach Tom.
We are Team Binge. Thank you for joining us for episode 2, season 3 of Ted Lasso. This episode, Tom, I'm going to let you do the honors because you have a special affinity. So go ahead. What was this one called?
The episode called Chelsea, but it had in parentheses before, I don't want to go to Chelsea.
Right, like a Taylor Swift song. You just add the parentheses and it makes the title much longer and much more confusing. Is this a reference to something? Obviously, they play Chelsea in this episode, but what is the I don't want to go to Chelsea?
Yeah, it's a Zava line at the very end where he's like, I don't want to play here, kind of a thing, and then ultimately chooses Richmond. So I think that's what they're doing.
Interesting. Okay. Well, the reason I said that Tom has an affinity for this is because Tom follows football. And Tom, your team is?
Is Chelsea, the Blue Lions of London. So I'm a big fan. This was really fun to see them featured, and the fact that they've got the Premier League rights and are using these teams is great. Seeing Stamford Bridge, their home stadium, was really cool too. The crowd, which are very awesome fans, doing the Roy chant later that we'll get to. It was super fun. They didn't have any Chelsea players, which is kind of a bummer. It would have been cool if they had like a little cameo from a guy or two, but it seemed like the guys in the field were either actors or maybe like second team Chelsea players. Nobody that I recognized.
Sure. It's like in The Dark Knight Rises when Hines Ward and Ben Roethlisberger are on the field. I know what you're talking about. I looked for him too. I didn't recognize any of the players as well. I will say that Chelsea's probably got the best colors of any team in the Premier League of the three that I'm aware of. So I'll give them that. And this was, I'll start off by saying, an extremely enjoyable episode. Once again, I came into this season a little bit tepid, just based on my season 2 impressions, but I really enjoyed this episode. I got to watch it twice, and there's something about it with the way the jokes hit, the way we have like all our main cast members like enjoying being with each other, and we don't have any weird like panic attacks, but we just get to see the people and characters we love like hang out and handle things, and I enjoyed this immensely. And there's just so many funny lines and I mean the beard shriek, like go to that well as often as possible. It's so good when he does that. Brendan Hunt,
it's great. And like
shriek.
to your point, like this is a fun-loving, great episode where they are just punching up every possible scene with jokes, and I am here for it. And I love the idea that this episode was so great, and who did it not really feature that much, and who was kind of a background character? Ted. Like Ted was there, and he was providing advice here or there, but it's letting these other characters breathe and adding some more interesting story beats and elements. What we kind of see with Roy, I thought was just fantastic and so well written. It's great. I think it's going to be what we're going to echo the entire season, is how at the very end, he may not feel that he's needed here because he's made all of these people better, and it was just a fun ride.
I agree. The one character I thought you were going to say didn't play a huge role was Nate, which I think we can all agree. We don't need Nate in this show. We don't need the Death Star Nate. But I agree with you. It was fun to see Ted not be like emotionally broken Ted. It was fun to see Ted as Coach Ted, where he's pulling people aside, giving good advice, and cracking jokes, making wise. I don't know how that goes. Anyways, let's go through it, Tom, because once again, this was a lovely, lovely episode. Speaking of lovely, we start at the offices of KJPR, which I believe is a law firm. I'm not real sure what happens in this office other than it's decorated well and they spend a lot on flowers. Maybe it's a funeral home. I don't know. But we have this relationship that I feel like they're going to dive in, and this is going to be kind of Keely's storyline through the season, or at least part of it is her and this Barbara, straight-laced, no fun, Keely, all fun, and whatever the opposite of straight-laced is. And Keely's trying to get her office staff to loosen up and have fun. And I think it's important that she like brings this up to Ted, because Ted knows how to handle these situations. So he gives her some good advice about going to an escape room.
Yeah, I like it too because I think, Keely's much more like crooked Velcro than the straight lace staff that she has.
Yes, that's what we do here. That's what AFC Richmond does. Crab cakes and football. Oh, man.
Nom.
You are my sack lunch, Tom. All right. We then go to a different office. It's Rebecca's office, and boy, is it just lovely to see Trent Krim. He's back, baby. Rebecca, Lasso, Keely, Higgins, the whole group is there, and I got to be honest, they didn't have any Trent Krim in episode 1. Mm-hmm. We have kind of, hey, this is what Trent's going to be doing this season. He's going to be around a lot. He's writing a book. I loved this. I love that they brought him in to do this, and I am excited to see as much Trent Krim as they'll give us.
Yeah, and apparently Lasso says there's a Ziploc bag of hair ties in the Lost and Found, so if he wants to get those back, he can go and pick them up.
His hair is a little bit less maney. It's a little bit less line mane, but it's still beautiful.
Yeah. But yeah, I loved this concept and idea of bringing Trent back to have him, write the memoir of Lasso, and like probably that's how they're going to tie this whole thing together, with him maybe reading a book poetically like he did in his article in one of the first season episodes when he had his interview with Ted. It's such a cool concept. I like how they broke the ice with Roy and him throughout this episode. And yeah, I want more Trent Krim. He's the best.
Yeah, and I would definitely read a book about AFC Richmond's rise or perpetual plateau or fall. Whatever's going to happen here, I'm all for it. Tom, this brings us to the Tom and Julian reading quarter, where we discuss what our favorite sports books are. And I will give you the floor for you to tell me that you don't read books, but I'm going to ask you, what is your favorite? What was a book turned into a movie that you saw? Because this conversation will go nowhere if I ask you about books. And I'm not trying to make fun of you. I'm not trying to despair you or disparage you because you don't read or don't know how to read. What's your favorite sports movie?
The Natural is a book, right?
Sure, probably. Yes. I'm going to say yes.
Remember the Titans? Was that a book?
I guarantee it was. Yes.
Then those are the ones that I loved reading.
Okay.
What's your favorite sports book, Julian?
Oh, it's Hunger Games. Definitely a sports book. It's about games and people that are hungry. So that's my favorite. Maybe Friday Night Lights. I don't know. Moneyball. Did I read Moneyball? Ooh, I think I fell into my own trap. Did I read Moneyball or did I just watch Moneyball? It doesn't matter. Sports books are great. Everyone loves them, especially when they're about small towns and failing ball clubs. So hopefully,
do you like the sports books that you read? Do you like the fiction ones or non-fictions? Like, do you want a documentary book?
Oh, I don't think I've ever read I don't think I've ever read a fiction sports book. The only sports books I've read are about like stuff that actually happened, like Hunger Games.
Like the Hunger Games.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you. Exactly.
Gotcha.
I like this part where they bring up this idea in front of Trent to Ted, and they're like, listen, we're all on board. We think it's a great idea. Trent looks to Ted. Everyone's mouthing the no silently. Ted, the longest beat in the world, he looks each of them dead in the face and he's like, it's a great idea. Yeah. I love that moment. It reminds me of when you're a kid and your friend's like, hey, can I come over? And you take the kid over to your parents and you're like, hey, can so-and-so come over? And your parents are just stuck there because the kid's staring at them that's not theirs. That's what this reminded me of a little bit. But this is interrupted with some news about, is it Zava? How do we say this gentleman's name?
It's Zava.
And he's leaving Juventus, and Ted's line is, what about their kids? Which is just a great joke. What is Juventus? What is Java? What's happening here, Tom?
So my understanding or thought would be Zava is maybe a kind of placeholder for Zlatan Ibrahimovic, which is a very famous...
No. You don't have to explain. I know who that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Our audience will know, too. It's not like you just made a bunch of random noises and pretended they were a famous, I don't know, tennis player. What's happening here, Tom?
He's an incredibly famous footballer who kind of later in his career, I think he jumped back and forth between some teams. I don't know if he played for Juventus, which I believe is an Italian team. but he actually currently plays for, if I'm not mistaken, LA Galaxy in the MLS. So kind of like we talked about, some star players kind of later in their career coming to the United States to collect a paycheck and have some fun in the kind of what I would call a lesser league.
Sure.
So I'm assuming they're kind of playing on that concept or idea, because I do believe that Ibrahimovic actually played in the Italian leagues and popped around in some teams, and even kind of has a look and vibe of Zava with kind of a little man bun and kind of slim, tall build.
And he walks around with Bane's jacket.
Such great stylistic choices. This is why him and Jamie are going to be like button heads, just because of the fashion.
Right. You can tell I watched The Dark Knight Rises recently, because all of my references are going to be to that. And to the person who asked, yes, I did take over the Twitter drunkenly one night and just start texting the Justice Department about the Dent Act, which Tom has slapped my hand and told me I can no longer tweet late at night. But
that's strike two, buddy.
Until he changes the password, it's free game. There's some great jokes in here about The Office and the reason Zava is joining, or at least looking to move to the Premier League, is because his wife binge watched The Office. And Ted has a great joke where he says something about Scranton, Pennsylvania, and they're like, well, we did the original Office. And he's like, oh yeah, you guys did a pre-make over here. Which, like, the way he delivers it makes it sound like they copied us, and it's just, it's wonderfully written. I thought that joke was great.
So great. And we're obviously big fans of The Office, so it was fun to get an Office reference as well.
Yes, so much fun. There's a conversation about handfuls of M&Ms and Skittles. Tom, let's talk this out, because I think this is important. Much like sports books, actually, you have a little bit more knowledge of this one. When you grab M&Ms, what's the right amount of M&Ms to grab? And then same question for Skittles. I'll wait for your response.
I feel like M&Ms can last you longer. Skittles seem to, I was going to say melt in your hand. They don't melt in your hand like an M&M would do, but that hard candy shell really does hold up. In terms of how many I would put in my hand, I'd say maybe 4 to 6. But they're not lasting in my hand very long, if I'm being honest. I'm the kind of guy that like opens up candy and just shovels half of it in his mouth. Doesn't linger.
Sure. You like to play that game Kevin plays in The Office, where it's how many
Exactly.
M&Ms can I fit in my mouth. There's your Office reference. Drink, everyone. I will say this. All M&Ms taste the same, so you can throw them in your mouth in a handful and you're not mixing anything. Skittles, I feel like you have to mix flavors or know what you're doing. You can't just throw a handful into your mouth. So you have to be very judicious is maybe the right word for Skittles. I don't know, Justice Department, you tell me. I just want to point out once again, I love that Trent Crimm's back. He does this great thing to close the scene out where he points out that Rebecca only changed her mind on Zava because Rupert, West Ham, is going after him. Because before she's like, we don't really need the drama. But Rupert wants him. We want him. And Trent like drills in there. And it's so great to see the journalistic genius of Trent Crimm, formerly of The Independent. I love it.
And I like how they're doing this. It seems like throughout this whole episode, when there's some sort of like dramatic beat or something, like Trent Crimm is going to be in the room. So that way, when he does write the book kind of at the end, he'll be there for these beats and it'll kind of make more sense how he got this. So I think he's going to be probably sidling a lot of characters throughout the season.
I look forward to it. Once again, more of him. The only thing I can think about is what his book is going to be titled. And as we talk this evening, I'm going to think of a really good title for it, and I'm going to reveal it at the end. I'm going to do it on the fly, Tom. So
very good.
Let's put a pin in that. Which I think there's still some pins on from our first season of Ted Lasso that we never went back to. But
we'll get to them.
Yeah, one day. We're in the Richmond hallway. We've got Ted giving Keely advice about working with her team. What's more important here is a very awkward exchange between Jamie and Keely. My favorite thing is Jamie just going, Jim, like nothing more than one word, just to let her know he was coming from the gym. Jim.
He was talking to a guy named Jim.
Isaac, which it's good to have Isaac flex his acting muscles here. I appreciate him. He comes in and lets Jamie know that he used science to know that Roy and Keely broke up, which was just great.
Kinesics, man. It's the body language. But yeah, the way Isaac delivers these lines are absolutely fantastic. And then, of course, seconds later, JB has to try to pawn this off as he was the one that figured this out by saying he used body science.
I use body science. I wish I could do a JB accent, but Phil Dunster does just such a great job. The one visual I thought was funny is they have a water cooler that both Isaac and Jamie are using in the hallway. I'm pretty sure they're not. I don't know. I guess I've never been in the clubhouse of the ball club house of a football team. I don't know how they get their water, but I thought it was very funny that they're just like filling up water bottles at the water tank.
Yeah, I'm hoping we have more like comedic moments of people like talking around the water cooler. It's classic.
Right. We have, and I'm assuming it's flat water, not sparkly water. But maybe they have giant sparkly water, 5-gallon jugs in there. Who knows? Jamie and Roy are in the kit room. This is, just give me more of this, man. Roy and Jamie like kind of getting along, or at least like Jamie showing some parts of his humanity, like really trying to be a good human. I don't know. Right? This is great.
I love the way they set this up, right? So he's going down the hallway when he heard that they're breaking up, and my assumption was he's going after Keely because he already kind of expressed his feelings and love for her at the end of the last season.
That's
so you
true.
think he's going to see this as an opening. But no, he turns to the side, and again, I love the way they shot this. He could have kept going down the hallway, but he turns to the side and goes into the boot box to have a conversation with Roy.
I'm sorry, did you say boot box?
Yeah, it's the boot box. Didn't we call this room the boot box? At least I'm calling it the boot box.
Listen, a boot box is what you carry around on your shoulders when you want all your other friends to listen to your new cassette tape. That's what a boot box is. The conversation of, we already touched on it, but how did you know we broke up? I used bodies. I can't do it. I can't deliver the line.
I use body science. That's not right. I don't know if that's
it. You sound like Paul McCartney when you do that. That's very, very nice. I'm podcasting with one of the Beatles that's still alive. Bring John Lennon back for me, Tom. Anyways, Jamie makes a face here, and he's like, "What's that bleeping face?" And he's like, it's empathy. And this is so good. The back and forth between them and Jamie trying to be a good human and comfort him leads to he tries to hug him. Roy, of course, pushes him away. And this joke got me. I wrote it on my vision board. Jamie goes, I forget how skittish elderly people can be because of the war, which I have so many questions of what war Jamie's referring to. If he's referring to World War II and the Blitz, or how old he thinks Roy is, all that stuff is it's a great joke.
It is absolutely brilliant. And again, the delivery from Jamie is what makes it so much funnier.
Sure. And then we have a reveal in the boot box, Tom.
This is great because I feel like we've had this before. This is that classic thing of they're talking seemingly by themselves and the camera pans out and there's another guy in the room and you got poor William, the kit man, just sitting in the corner. And I love the way that JB like points to him and tells him not to say anything. And he's pointing at him for like a good 10 seconds in this scene. And it's great and menacing. Yep. And I love it.
And William, this actor's very funny. It's like, hey, let's all go out for a drink. He's just like trying to fill the room with conversation because it's so awkward. What I think is funny is he's yelling at William not to spill the beans, and then Jamie immediately tells everyone in the locker room, which is wonderful.
Well, does he? Or does Isaac? Because Isaac was one, like, they finally start hearing Lasso and the coaches hear the argument going on in kind of the locker room. It seems like it was...
Oh, maybe it was Isaac. Maybe Jamie did
Isaac
keep
having
his
a cover.
We're in the coach's office. I only caught this on the second watch, but as Beard enters the room, he is texting into his phone, and he says, well, you are a sleepwalker. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. And I'm assuming he's informing Jane that she's a sleepwalker?
Yes.
Is that
I think he does mention Jane, but I like, the fact that it's a voice text and he says period at the end. It's a classic Beard move.
Right. And there's this great moment where Lasso's reading Inverting the Pyramid, which is a book that we see Beard reading. And Beard reacts here as if he's like, what are you doing? And the way he acts, what I picked up on it is like Beard is almost nervous that Ted is going to pick up on those parts of it. And it's almost like Beard's like, you're stepping on my inverted corner. Like, did you get that sense that like he felt like Ted was encroaching on his, what he contributes to the team? Does that make sense? Not in like a jealous way, but like in a kind of nervous, like you're in over your skis. I don't know if I'm using that term right.
No, I like that interpretation. My first thought was maybe Beard had something in the book, like he pretended to be reading this book at all times, but he's got all these post-it notes in there, and maybe he has notes about Jane or Lasso or somebody. And
it's
he's
just his
like,
journal, but he's got the inverted pyramid over it. That's good. I like that.
Well, because Lasso says like, I haven't gotten past like the table of contents, so he hasn't actually really opened the book and got into it. So yeah, maybe Beard's hiding something in this book. We'll see.
Okay. I like it. Ted asked him about signing Zava, and that's where we get the Beard shriek, which I think he does it 3 times in this episode, and they're all gold. And Ted's like, who's Zava? And so Beard, I guess they know who Zava is from something on YouTube.
Yeah, this veggie dog vigilante. So apparently he took out some dude in a grocery store while eating a veggie dog and then just headbutted him in the face. Weird, but funny.
Yeah. The guy's trying to rob the store, and he doesn't, Zava doesn't pay for those items, so I'm a little bit confused. He like headbutts the robber, but then steals all the veggie dogs. So it should be called Veggie Dog Vigilante Steals Veggie Dogs. That's what that video should be called.
Well, maybe he is the vigilante. Zava is the vigilante in this video, not the guy with the gun.
Well, yeah. He's a vigilante because he stops crime, but then he becomes a criminal. It's like when you are the hero long enough to become the villain, just like in The Dark Knight Rises. Anyways, you're welcome.
You got to get a Catwoman reference sometime in this episode.
Oh, Anne Hathaway. I hope she listens. It's 11. She doesn't. I asked. It's 11:11. This joke, once again, I love callbacks in shows. Lasso does it well. He makes some comment about 11:11 to make his wish. Both Beard and him make a wish. Lasso wants to know what Beard's is. Beard won't tell him. And
it's not how it works.
It's not how it works. They don't cancel each other out, or they will cancel each other out. I don't know. This was all just, once again, just put Brendan Hunt and Jason Sudeikis in a room together and let them like do their inside jokes. And that's what we love about these guys.
Fact. Yep.
We hear a ruckus in the locker room. And to your point, this is probably where Isaac is spreading the rumor. But they get this whole thing jumbled up. It's very funny. It's a very like who's on first, what's on second, like rumor about them getting Zava. The goalie, I can't remember his name. I believe it's French. He says, "Why would Zava write a book about Trent Krim?" And it was great. It was great.
The way
Zorro.
Nice, good pickup. Yeah, the way everything gets twisted to that final line is just pure comedy gold. I do love the idea, too, that at one point, like Danny Rojas, and they first mentioned Zava, he says, like, oh, I just wished for that 30 seconds ago. And if you go back and watch that, you can actually clock the second that it hits 11:11 and Lasso and Beard make their wish. If you put a clock on it, 30 seconds later is exactly when Danny says that line.
That's so great. And it's also great. Something where I can totally see like Ted talking to Danny about 11:11 and yes. Danny like making that his thing as well. He's like, oh, I did not know if you wished at 11:11. And Ted's like, yeah, it's one of the, rules of the universe. And then Danny like collects that. So good. I loved it. I loved how all the team is kind of getting in on the action. They all give him lines to say. It was very fun. This is then where Beard finds out that Roy and Keeley break up, and we get another shriek, and Ted faints. And I had trouble taking notes on this because there's so many funny things that happen so quickly. It's like the whole locker room's dealing with Zava and the breakup. Ted tells William to go get the breakup CD. What's the CD? Beard's like, I'm on it. He throws him his keys. Beard's like, I've already got a copy. And then he comes in through the side door once Roy mentions that he's the one that broke up with Keeley, and he shrieks again. And it just, This just beat for beat was so funny to me, and I enjoyed it immensely.
The best part of this whole bit is like when I think at the very end, like Roy starts screaming about his hatred for Trent Crimm and how nobody should talk to him, and then Roy exits scene. Watching Jamie here, did you catch this? I caught it on the first one.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Jim from The Office. Jamie is just breaking like crazy and has his like hands on his lips and is trying to hold it together. And then the door slams, and you can probably tell this was an ad-libbed moment. The door's not supposed to slam because they all seemed very, very frightened by it.
Right.
And he starts giggling more. It's so great.
Yeah, Phil Dunster is definitely breaking. He's smiling through the whole thing. And apparently they just kept the take, and it's great because you can see that you get the feeling that it's cast just based on what you see like online and everything, because a lot of these guys are minor players in a big TV show, but they are very much a team, and like you get the sense that the positive energy that is a through line in Lasso also happens to affect the actors that are in it. So it is fun. And yeah, I clocked it. It was great to watch him laugh in the background. And then you have the most positive guy, the football is life guy, tell Trent to F off because Roy has told all of them not to talk with him. And like Danny he's like fighting his friendliness, like to be the golden retriever that he is, that in response to that, almost like a kid, he's got to like then swing the opposite direction and just scream at Trent. And it's, I don't know, it's all just so good.
Yeah.
A comedy show will always get me. There is something about something being thrown and someone not reacting to it, or like something being thrown to someone else and then just like ignoring it. There's a classic Arrested Development where Michael throws George Michael the keys and Michael Cera just turns his body, like doesn't attempt to catch them. They just hit him. There is a scene that will always stick with me. Have you ever seen the Whole 9 Yards with Matthew Perry and Bruce Willis, Tom?
Yes. Been a minute, but I've seen it.
The funniest, and this hit me as a kid when I watched it when I was like 3, there's a moment where they're on a boat and Bruce Willis reaches in, gets a beer, and throws it to Matthew Perry. And Matthew Perry doesn't move or react, and the beer just sails by him into the water. And then Bruce Willis gives this look, like this shrug, and then he gets himself a beer. And when Lasso throws the keys to Beard in this, and Beard doesn't react, they like hit him in the back. He's just like, I've got my own copy. I laughed hysterically. It was very, very funny.
Now that you say that, I feel like I've seen that in The Nice Guys with
Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe.
Yes, where I think Russell Crowe like tosses Ryan Gosling like a gun or something, or vice versa, and the gun just goes flying over his head and like breaks the glass and falls out the window.
Yes,
it's the same deal.
Yes, that is. I love it. I remember that. That's a great. That is a great movie, by the way. I appreciate that movie. We're at the shooting of a commercial that Keely's running. She meets an old friend. She seems to be having... I couldn't figure out who the two people... Were the two people the clients that owned the goat? Or
yes.
I didn't understand who those people were.
Yeah, they're just shooting a commercial. I think they're just the director, producer of the commercial. And she's just making sure that they stay on budget and, I don't know, sell the heck out of this vodka?
Goat?
Or
No. They're selling mini goats, Tom. This is a company that sells mini goats, I'm assuming, for slaughter. I'm sorry. Spoilers. The goat doesn't make it. Tastes delicious. Best pork chops you'll ever have come from goat. You heard it here first, folks. A little mint jelly. Anyways, the commercial's going fine, but she runs into an old friend. And very sweet moment here. The old friend's like, hey, we saw you in Vanity Fair with all your clothes on, as if to imply. Anyways. The friends are all proud because Keely made it out on her own, and I thought this was a very nice moment for Keely, who most days schedules some time to cry. So I think this was a nice pick-me-up.
Yeah, and we get a bit where like Shandy does have a good suggestion because the CFO was kind of on Keely for making sure they stay on time and on budget and everything, so she gets good advice. So I like this too because it didn't just make it feel like Keely is giving her a job just because she's a friend. Like, she can add value here. So I like that they did that.
Yeah, what I wish they would have done is when Barb, or Barbara, I think she prefers Barb,
Babs.
is Babs, that's right, is grilling Keely and Shandy. That's a great name, Shandy. Like a Lionel Coogan's beer, the Summer Shandy. Anyways, I'm thirsty. Keely should have brought that up. She should have been like, well, Shandy does have qualifications. She's been in a ton of commercials. In fact, this was her suggestion during the last one, to strobe the lights and have everyone cross camera, and then you'll get the crowded feel. Like, I wish she would have defended her in that way. I feel like she kind of left Shandy hanging during that interview. But I think we're gonna find out Barb is going to turn around. I think that's the storyline there, which I'm all for, and I'm interested in how Keely handles all these things. But we're in Rebecca's office. She talks with her mom. I felt like this was, I don't know, did we need this scene? I don't know if this was like, hey, we're going to bring her mom back.
My thought is they're going to feature her mom later and just want to let you know that she's still around, I guess. But she's at this like weird retreat. Like the way she's holding her phone in landscape mode, I thought was kind of funny. And she's a bit cuckoo and wanting her to meet her psychic. It is weird, and it doesn't necessarily seem like it's needed here, but maybe we'll get more of Rebecca's mom later on.
Sure. Yeah, we have Nicole Kidman walk in and call her Babushka, and then the White Lotus staff walks in the background. So a little bit of a crossover between an Apple show and an HBO show, and the other one was perhaps a Showtime or Amazon Prime show. I don't know. Eventually, they'll all become part of Ingersoll Rand, the industrial equipment company. Oh, deep cut. Rebecca and Higgins are talking, and I didn't take many notes on it, but Higgins comes in during these moments, and I just love him. I love him to death. He does his weird throwing up in his mouth thing. He's saying these things, and Rebecca's like, great, now you jinxed it. He's like, there's no way he'll go to West Ham. She's like, you jinxed it. He's doing lip reading, all these things. But essentially what we find is that Zava doesn't want Richmond because it will reflect poorly on him, which is great. And that he's going to sign with Chelsea, not West Ham. Yeah, I loved Higgins. They didn't use him a ton in this one, but when he came in, I enjoyed it.
Well, that's why I think Higgins is one of those characters that we've seen him be a lot more heavily involved in previous episodes, and he's great when he is, but he's also a fantastic actor that can just pepper in these little scenes and little quips and notes. But yeah, he kind of makes it seem like it's good news that he's going to Chelsea because he's not going to West Ham, and that's where they get the whole idea of him jinxing it, which is a great through line through this episode.
In the world of soccer, international soccer, football, sorry, Tom, We'll cut that out. West Ham and Chelsea, are these teams on the same level in terms of competitiveness? Is West Ham, would you say, a lower tier? Keep in mind, we have fans of both baseball clubs that listen to us, so try not to divide our already relatively small audience into smaller audiences of ones instead of the tens that we currently reach out to.
No, sure. I'm sure there's some Hammer fans out there. I would say as of right now, during this season, they are on par with each other. Chelsea's having a very middle of the road season. So, and West Ham is generally there. They're not at the tops. They're not at the bottom. They're a good, solid Premier League team, but they've struggled to try to get to the top of the league, which is just always tough. I mean, not to get too far into Premier League soccer, but there's kind of the 4 or 5 big teams, and Manchester City, Manchester United, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Chelsea that just have gobs of money to be able to throw at players. So it's difficult for some of these teams that don't have the budget to compete against their talent.
Got it. Well, you heard it first here, people. Chelsea is a middle of the table team, I believe is the terminology, and West Ham is a power bottom. Tom's words. I believe those are all special football terms. So you're welcome, everyone. We have Trent Krim walking through the building. No one will interact with him. There's a great moment, I think, where he goes to shake Jamie's hand, and Jamie thinks about it. And old Jamie would have not. No. Oh, am I wrong here?
Oh no! That was Jamie's. He looks at him, getting ready to shake his hand, and then puts his finger up in the air. He's like, no, I'm not shaking your hand.
What I think is funny is in the olden days, Jamie would have embraced Trent just to get back at Roy. And instead, he respects Roy and he does this. So it's we're seeing some growth out of old Jamie Tart. No one will interact with him. We find out, and this is just a wonderful, wonderful comedic idea, is Roy and Trent sharing an office. Talk to me about this office, Tom. As you scan the room, what do you see?
I see nothing on Trent's desk and just loads and loads of get well soon teddy bears.
Breakup gifts, I guess. Gifts. Do you get breakup gifts? Is that a thing?
It was so good. And like how quickly this has all happened, because this seems to be part of the same day, which is even better. But there is a card that he gets, this like big C that's got a bunch of fish. And who's this card from, Julian? It says XX Liza at the end. Do we know Eliza?
I thought it was his sister, but now that I think about it, I don't remember what his sister's name. The mother,
so Phoebe's mom.
Phoebe, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe this is it Miss Bowen? Are we going to get Miss Bowen brought into the action here?
You're talking about the
foil?
Oh, wait.
The teacher. Is it Liza Bowen?
Oh, no. That's not where my brain went. I thought you were talking about the old lady that bids on all the footballers.
That would be great.
At the charity. The one that Jamie is forced to do things to based on how much she paid. I don't know. We're a podcast for children, so I don't know what I'm allowed to say. But I like yours. I like that's I don't know. Would the school teacher send? I mean, it does look like a school teacher's card, though.
Right, the big letter C and the corny joke on it. I don't know if they're going to play on it, but they had a lot of chemistry in the previous season.
Oh, so much chemistry.
If they're going to bring her into,
I forgot her Irish accent. Tom, thank you for reminding me. She'd be an incredible Catwoman. Anyways, yeah, thank you. One thing I'll point out here, and I think it's important for all of us as adults to recognize, is you have to really be cognizant of the sides of a card when you buy it, because you a lot of times have to fill up all that space with words. When I look at this card and she's got like 2 lines, I'm like, that is a person that does not care. What you have to do is you have to buy a card where the manufacturer will say Hallmark, which we're going to call back here in a little while, has like a paragraph of words, so that you just have to write stuff around it. It's the ones that are like, it's like one word in there and you've got to fill all that space with like mushy language or like, hey, I don't appreciate those. Hallmark, I'm coming at you. More words in the cards so I don't have to write as much. Thank you.
Listen,
this has been Julian's Card Corner.
You've been doing it wrong. I just get a card that's got a big paragraph in the middle, and I put quotation marks at the front and end of that paragraph, and then just put -Tom.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And your kid is really going to appreciate that when you give him that and he starts calling you Tom. This leads to one of the funnier moments of a very funny episode where Trent takes a phone call. And what does Roy do, Tom?
Oh, Roy takes his beautiful, beautiful get well soon in your relationship balloons and pops them individually, very slowly, never turning, never looking, never acknowledging Trent, just popping them.
Is Roy a villain? Is Roy a jerk?
Yes,
should we not be rooting for Roy?
He is. He's great. He's the Joel of this episode. You don't know whether to root for him or not.
Yeah. That's a callback to The Last of Us that we did on a other podcast. So if you're watching Lasso and you want to get really thrown off, listen to us talk about The Last of Us. The shows are very similar in theme and, I don't know, motif, maybe.
I love Trent's like response here too. Like the person he's talking to, he's like, "Oh, is that on your end? I don't know if it's coming from my end."
Yeah. He's got to pretend. Yeah, that was very good. Very, very good. We're back at the law offices of KJPR. Keeley has hired Summer Shandy, Lionel Coogan's Summer Shandy. The CFO immediately is having none of it. I kept having to remind myself that Barbara was not a Keeley hire, that this person was forced on her, because during this whole thing, I was just like, Keeley, just get rid of her. And then I was like, okay, she can't. But Keeley follows after Barb humiliates Shandy. Keeley follows her back And then we discover that Barbara is a snow globe collector. What am I supposed to glean from this bit of knowledge that she's got 400 snow globes, Tom?
Yeah, she's a glober. I mean, I guess it's...
Why did that sound? It sounded like wrong. What? I don't know what that means, but I'm offended
She's a
by
globe.
it. That's all.
She's a globe trotter.
Globetrotter. Yeah.
There you
Sure.
go.
She can spin the basketball while whistling. I know what you're talking about.
I just think it's ultimately just something. Like, Keely needs something to be able to establish some sort of rapport and relationship with her staff, and she just has nothing. They all seem to be kind of drones, but everybody's got something. Like, you know, you've got your stamp collection, I've got my Lego, and Babs here has her globes. So I liked this little bit because it kind of establishes, okay, there is something here that they can bond on that's not just work, and I'm sure we'll get more bonding with the rest of the staff at some point.
Here's how I took it. I took it as Keely sees these things and she sees how many companies that Barbara has been sent to, and she like almost takes pity on her in terms of like a lack of stability. And I don't think this is to say anything about Barb's like ability to be successful, but it seems like she's like a hatchet man that's sent into different places to like fix it or cut things, because that's what hatchets do. They fix trees by dividing them. Oh man, I don't know why that tickled me. That I shouldn't laugh at my own jokes. That's like the number one. All right, I'm writing it down. I would like that in my will. Hatchets. I don't even remember what I said. Anyways, that's how I took it as like Keely. Almost a Catwoman Keely. Oh, how have I not brought this up? Keely is in Dark Knight Rises. She is Catwoman's friend. The actress that plays Keely is Anne Hathaway's friend in The Dark Knight Rises. How did I not remember that until this moment? Oh,
wow.
Man. Shake
Brilliant.
the old snow globe. Everyone's world's just been shook. Yeah, wow. So... anyways, the whole lesson here is Keely's like, Barb, let's try and believe in people. And that's straight from the old Ted Lasso book. So I do like how Ted is affecting all these other people. I hope they don't kill Ted in the season finale. Wouldn't that be rough? Like, everyone's lives have changed. They're all waving at him, and then a bus smokes him at a crosswalk because he looks the wrong way. Tom, I think I just wrote the finale of Ted Lasso. He looks the wrong way, not realizing he's in London, and then no, he looks the right way for London, but an American driver who's driving on the wrong side smokes him, and everyone watches it happen, and that's how Lasso season 3 ends.
Wow, we have had foreshadowing. Beard has saved him from walking into the middle of the street before.
That's true. Anyways, sorry, I took us off on a tangent, but Keely Jones is in The Dark Knight Rises. That's the most important thing that I can contribute to the world right now.
But I'm wondering if we're going to see something with the credit card. And my wife picked this up, and I think it's a great point, is that she looks at the credit card, Shandy does, and it almost makes it seem like, is she going to abuse this credit card that she was told by Babs, the CFO here, hey, don't use this. We got you a corporate card, but don't use it. I'm wondering if that's going to be kind of like maybe a betrayal by the friend, that she's going to help, but then she takes this card and spends it on who knows what.
That's fair. I mean, you do have the text at the very end where she says, let's bring mimosas to work. We'll charge it to the company card, which... yeah, I don't know. I see that. My issue is, how do you abuse a credit card? You charge things to it, and then once it gets full, you get rid of it. You go get a new one. I don't really understand how anyone gets in trouble with credit cards. It's free money.
Yeah, fair.
But no, it's a good
You'll
point.
Find out one day.
I get a lot of calls from creditors, I believe they're called. Anyways, we're in the parking lot. We've got, very quickly, Roy and Trent asking him to give him a chance, and classic Roy accepts him, hugs him, I think kisses him on both cheeks, and then tells him to friend off, is what I'm going to say. A friend is the F word in this situation. For those
Trent tries.
He did try.
He tries to take the high ground, or what he sees as a high ground, and is trying to level with him, but Roy's still having none of it, and we don't really know quite why yet, but we'll get there.
Yeah, I was trying to like rack my brain as to that relationship, and I'm just remembering there's a scene in either season 1 or season 2, I think it's season 1, where Trent Crimm spends the day with Ted, and Roy says, "You've always been a prick," to him after like Ted's trying to get him to read the Something in Time book that I'm blanking on the name of.
Wheel of Time?
Not the Wheel of Time. It is
Wrinkle in Time.
The Wrinkle in Time. And so that is really the only time we get their interaction, I believe. I could be wrong. But let's go from there. Let's go to game time, Tom. It's game time. How many times have you watched a game in Chelsea Stadium?
Ugh, 0. Unfortunately, I've never been to the Stamford Bridge.
I'm sorry, but they play on a bridge?
Stamford Bridge, yes.
Stamford, Connecticut. Sorry.
Another Office reference. Well
Drink.
done. But it was fun. It was fun to see like the club that I love and seeing maybe some of like the behind the scenes. I don't know if they shot some of the stuff like with Rebecca and Zava in like some of these offices or kind of back end suites, but it was cool to see the stadium and see it featured so heavily, and the fact that I had forgot that Roy did have a tie with Chelsea, and that's where he kind of came from before he moved to Richmond. So I loved all of that.
Yeah, no, it's a good time. Once again, I love the blue and white. Who doesn't look good in blue and white other than Smurfs? You can keep the pause in there. I was going to say blueberries, but I think Smurfs is better. Just cut a laugh track in there, Tom. Just make sure everyone laughs. Guess who returns? And I don't think we saw them in season 1, but they're back. We have the pub crew. Paul, something and something. Baz, Paul Baz, and the other gentleman. And then May, the publican. All looking great.
Yeah, so great to have these guys back. And I love I don't remember which one is which, but the guy that comes in with like the top hat and like the fancy outfit and has the top hats for everybody else. I mean, super classy. Classy Englishman.
Yep. That's why Tom and I are podcasting with top hats on right now.
I like how we get this quick cut then back to the game, and you see Higgins with Keeley and Rebecca up in the stands. And I love the idea of like Higgins being like the Adam Schefter of the English football, where he's getting all these rumor mills from friends of people reading lips, of massage parlors, of everything. It's so great. And Leslie delivers it so well.
Reading lips at massage parlors. That's an interesting. Ooh, let's move on. Roy being back at Chelsea. I don't know why this got me. I don't know. I don't understand. Roy's not a real soccer player. He's not a real person. But when they started chanting the Roy Kent chant, and he like stood up, and there was a moment here. I'm not going to say I wept openly or wept openly, as the English say, but I did shriek like Beard over and over again and speak in tongues. So yeah, it was emotional to see the crowd appreciate Roy.
Yeah, and like when Roy comes through the tunnel, he kind of like cracks wise with one of the security guys there that's probably been great. There Bruce. For a long time. That was really great. And yeah, I mean, a lot of these clubs do this. Like, and I know Chelsea does this. You can watch one of their games and look into the stands, and they'll have banners for some of their legends, like Zola or Frank Lampard or Jose Mourinho. Like, they love and respect their former footballers. And it's so cool to see this year when they come back. It's not like a rival where you're going to boo them every single time in the game. Like, they love and respect the guy that brought so much to the club in the past, and to see this and show that Chelsea fans are good fans, it was kind of cool.
The greatest fans, Tom, because you're one of them and you're great. So I love all pal. Chelsea fans. Great moment here. If you blink, you miss it. I think Zava has shown up, and Danny Rojas is very excited for Zava to watch him play. And he says, "I haven't been this nervous since I played in El Chapo's youth league," which is a Mexican drug lord. And it's just listen, when they were in the writer's room, whoever wrote that joke, I hope they gave him some sort of award, because it's a wonderful, wonderful joke.
That is funny.
You can kind of see what's developing with Jamie as like Jamie is kind of over the celebrity of Zava, and I'm interested to see how that reflects in the locker room. And I don't really like this move of getting Zava. I understand it's kind of driven by Rebecca, but there's something to be said about the chemistry of a team in a locker room and not upsetting it with an ego, if that makes sense, if I'm touching something. But yeah.
No, you're right. And every time Zava is mentioned, Jamie is a little bit taken aback because Jamie is their star striker right now. So you could bring this guy in. You know, is Jamie still going to have a spot? Is he going to be benched? Who really knows? So he has his doubts. And I think from Jamie's perspective, he knows the kind of guy that Zava is because he was that guy.
Great point.
And from what we've seen so far, it seems like Zava is like Jamie 2.0, like even more so into himself. So we'll see how this dynamic works. But I'm with you. At first, I was a little bit hesitant, but I kind of like the wrinkle that this will bring in. I don't want everything to just be perfect for this whole season. And this is going to potentially play to the idea that, okay, if Richmond just got demoted and or promoted from the lesser league, do we really think they can go all the way and win here? So now that they're getting this star player, even though it might wreck the locker room a little bit, this gives a little bit of credence to potentially Richmond winning it all here.
Sure. No, those are all great points. And I don't know. I may disagree with you on watching a TV show where everything's just going well. I guess I'll take a little conflict, but there is great joy in just these guys telling jokes and like me not having to feel super sad or feel like they're forcing villain Nate on me. Like, I think that's maybe why I love this episode so much is like, what was the real like downer drama is Rebecca talking to Rupert later in this scene. And, you know, we've already established Rupert is a jerk and he's not going to change, but I got a lot of joy out of just these guys enjoying like spending time together. So I don't know.
But we get some stuff with Roy at the end though. Like, I mean, he has some like an emotional moment, which I liked because I don't think we need to be void of the emotion stuff. Because I mean, this big part of the cast was just at the White House talking about like mental health issues, which was super cool to see all these guys like using their celebrity to push the idea of mental health and being kind and nice to each other was super cool to see. So, this show, obviously season 2 pushed a little bit more heavy into that, but that is the crux of this show is being kind and treating people well. And just because you treat people well and are kind, it doesn't mean that everything is perfect in your life. Like,
sure,
people that give love need to receive it as well.
Forgive me. I was not trying to say that I don't appreciate like the emotional beats. I guess I appreciate that we're not taking big like villain swings. I guess is what I'm saying, because I think one of my big complaints is the Nate character of what they've done here or with him. And so I'm fine with like the conflict of like Roy and his relationship with Keeley and him like determining whether or not he's going to make decisions that make him happy despite, what the future holds. And I don't know. I'm not saying I don't appreciate those things. I am just saying I don't need, like, if Zava comes in and is just like over the top terrible and we have to deal with that with 3 episodes and he like murders someone and this turns into a detective show where they're trying to find the murderer. Actually, I think we talked about this in season 1. We are for that. So Zava the Murderer episodes, I don't know, 3, 4, and 5. And then Beard alone in London for 6. These are my predictions. Anyways, I'm with you. I wasn't trying to say I don't appreciate the emotional stuff, but I do appreciate all of the funny and the lack of over-the-top badness. Speaking of over-the-top badness, we've got a conversation about Hallmark Christmas movies. Oh, and before we go there, we do have an interesting moment here, to your point, an emotional moment, where we have Rebecca reveal kind of why she fell for Rupert, and like despite the fact that he's oily and kind of a overall bad dude. Like there's a charm to him that over time overtook her. So I did think it was interesting to get her kind of explain how they ended up together in the first place.
Yeah, because she even knew that he was married, I think, at the time, but his persistence and charm just was enough and didn't not wear her down or anything. But it was, and I think he even makes that line, it's like a fine line between stalking and romance. But, Rebecca felt loved and felt wanted by this man. And, she makes mention that's what Rupert is doing to Zaba right now.
Sure. Maybe they'll get married, That might be nice. That would be a change of pace.
That is a spin-off show I would not watch.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say it would be an episode of The Last of Us, but I don't know if... Anyways, we're in the locker room. We're talking about Hallmark Christmas movies. Great line from Ted. We're so unoffensive, we're like a Hallmark Christmas movie, and everyone's confused. Which leads to Trent Grimm coming in as Jamie is trying to talk strategy. Everyone gets quiet. Ted recognizes what's happening. He pulls Roy into the yellow tiled shower room. Is Chelsea one of those teams that tiles the opposing team's locker room some weird depressing color so that they don't play as well? Is that what's happening here?
I don't know. It'd be kind of cool if this actually was Chelsea's visitor locker room, but I would imagine it might be a set, but who knows?
There's a apocryphal story about, like, I want to say Iowa painted the visitors locker room like pink. So like it's just supposed to like calm you and I guess make you less competitive. I don't know. But it's the funny thing to think about. Ted levels with Roy. He's like, listen, you need to fix this because otherwise we're going to lose more here than just a silly game. I do appreciate that Roy's opening line is, what the heck is a Hallmark Christmas movie?
Yeah, he's like pulling him aside and that's the first thing that Roy wants to know. But I love that Ted is like, I don't know your beef, but you better order from the vegan menu and squash it. Great line.
Great line. Oh, man, the brain of Ted Lasso. So good. So good.
But Julian, I want you to tell me about your favorite Hallmark Christmas movie. I know way back when you used to be a Christmas tree farmer, so this probably hits pretty close to home.
Yep, Christmas tree farmer, also Santa Claus, also a prince, all of those things. I gotta be honest, I don't watch any of the cheesy Christmas movies. I don't think I've ever seen a Hallmark one. The only one I've ever desired to see is the Kristen Wiig and Will Ferrell one that they apparently did and played straight. But I never saw it. I mean, Christmas movies for me are The Christmas Story, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and that's about it. I don't know. Peanuts, Christmas with Charlie Brown. Those are the three. I've never seen a Hallmark Christmas movie, but I have a sense of what they are based on how Ted described them, that's for sure.
Listen, they suck, but they're great. I mean, they really, really suck, but they're great. They're good with the sound off.
Good with the sound off, which is probably the best praise you can give a movie ever.
There's just so many pretty people. That's why it's good with the sound off.
Well, the plot goes in such a way that you don't need the sound. I've heard people describe our podcast as great with the sound off. Roy, I thought this was interesting that they did this. Roy angrily does everything angry. He yells at Krim, takes his duffel bag down angrily, pulls his wallet out angrily, pulls out this article angrily, and it's an article that Trent Krim wrote about him when he was 17 and entered the Premier League. How young? What are the child labor laws on Premier soccer players? What's going on here? When can you force a child to play soccer for money? What's going on?
Most of these players for these big teams play as like youth club teams. So they call it academies. So Chelsea will have an academy that instead of playing for like a local soccer club, you play for Chelsea's academy. So you literally grow up in it. So if you are very, very good at a young age, there are players that have premiered in the Premier League at, I mean, I don't know what the youngest age is, but 16 I think is probably close to it.
Interesting. So they go straight from the coal mines to the academies and then the soccer field and then to America and then to the coal mines. Mm-hmm. Clean energy, baby. Trent apologizes and kind of gives a reason why he did what he did.
Yeah, and I like this because he is kind of mentioning, like, listen, I was just trying to be edgy, and he was kind of looking for the worst in people as he was trying to start his career, which I thought is a great line because that's not where I think Trent is now because of what he's doing and the book he wants to write about this team and about Ted Lasso. So again, Ted Lasso is rubbing off on people, not just the players, but on Trent Crimm here.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And and I said this at the beginning, like I loved the writing of this so much about them showing us this moment and not having to tell us. Like the idea that Roy pulls this article clipping out of his wallet and he's kept this in his wallet since he's been 17 as a reminder or motivation to be better. It's so great. And even at the end when he eventually rips this thing up, it's such a poetic and brilliantly written moment. I loved it.
Sure. Yep. The only thing I've kept in my wallet that long is my library card, which has never been signed and never been used. This episode is sponsored by libraries. Go visit your local library. You're welcome, libraries. Jamie, I appreciate this. We get back to what Jamie was trying to talk about, team strategy. And I know you're a football fan, and even as a non-football fan, whatever the heck they say here felt like kind of cheap writing, which I'm not going to nitpick here, but it's like, okay, let's show them being a team to come up with a strategy to tie the game. I appreciate that they gave Jamie a chance, they gave Obasanya a chance, and they gave Isaac a chance to all pitch in here. Once again, just showing like the synergy of the locker room. So it was good, but I did, upon the second listen, I was like, I don't think they're saying real soccer things.
Well, I feel like Jamie and Sam kind of were, but then when Isaac steps in, he's like, yeah, let's just go win the game. Yeah. And everybody starts screaming like, well, that's not really much of anything.
Captain, man. That guy's just a leader of men there. So good.
I love it.
We cut to the stands where it's Higgins, Keeley, and Rebecca.
Oh, we get another check-in with Higgins, where he's got his karate teacher and Zava's avocado farm.
The girl that dated the person that ran Zava's avocado farm. I'm super interested in this avocado farm. I mean, think of the guacamole if you owned an avocado farm.
So much guac.
Oh, think of the avocado baths you could take. You could just roll around in it. This is where she decides to go after Zava because she thinks Rupert's going to get him. And so the conversation, is this where Rupert and Rebecca run into him in the hall?
Yeah, so she heads out and wants to try to go to that section of the stands where Zava is, which I would argue she probably could have just got past Keeley and Higgins to get to where Zava was. But it's just a means for them to meet up in this little hallway, and I think Rupert was going back for his sunglasses or something that the bodyguard has.
Classic move. You ever do the old left behind? You ever leave the sunglasses somewhere just so you get the old call back? What I like to do, Tom, is I like to leave too much money in the offering plate at church and then have to come back around and be like, hey, I put too much in, can I take some back? And then sometimes, not proud of it, you take more out of it than what you put in. More investing advice from Julian at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. You can email me. I'll send you the newsletter. Please don't steal from churches and libraries. That would be the big lesson I've learned in life. Anyways, we get a great moment here. No. We get a bad moment here. Rupert being just a terrible human while he's talking to Rebecca. And every time, I just want Rebecca, and I know this isn't very Lasso. This is not Lasso level 7, 8, 10, whatever it is. But she should just punch him in the face. I truly believe Rebecca could break Rupert in 1,000 different ways, physically.
Facts, for sure. Yeah, and Rupert's just being the worst. He has that line about, oh, I'm just like any man. I get bored with the same old. Just like, he just can't not be a jerk. And again, I don't know if we needed more of this. We already know he's a jerk, but I guess it's a new season. You got to give some more just misogynistic jerk lines. But I love how Zava kind of comes in very briefly here because he's going to the bathroom and he's like, "It's an honor for you to meet me."
That is a line that you should start using. I would appreciate it if the next time we meet new people, you use that line, please.
Will do.
Rebecca, not to be outdone, follows Zava into the men's room and yells at him in the urinal. And Hannah Waddingham just turns it up to 11 and does a great job. Very funny. Good. I don't love a lot of urinal humor. I feel like urinals are a sacred space where a person should not be bothered. No one should be like, hey, that's a nice watch you're wearing while you're using the urinal. But still a very funny moment.
Well, I mean, it has to be said that Zava here is a true professional, and you can just see it in his urinal technique. I mean, no hands. He has great control of his stream. Throughout the conversation, he's stopping, he's going. I mean, it's impressive. So I get why people are in love with this guy.
Yep. You think he would do very well in a conversation with Ike Barinholtz and Xavier? Is that his name from the after party?
Yes, that would be fantastic. Another great peeing contest.
So many good peeing contests. We cut from this bathroom where Zava has been chastised for his asparagus consumption, which I'm just going to go out. Asparagus is terrible. I don't care what you try to dress it up as. Asparagus is one of the worst vegetables. You can add us at Team Binge on Twitter if you love asparagus. If you're an asparagus farmer, I apologize. Become an avocado farmer. I would definitely get on board with that. But we cut to the field, and this is a great callback from the one shot on goal. Is one shot on goal and a half, is that common, Tom, or is that just like terrible football? Because they mention during the halftime show when U2 is playing and they're in the locker room that Rojas accidentally had one shot on goal with his face. And is that normal? How many shots on goal? I feel like, I know it's not hockey, but one seems extremely low, like comically low.
Yeah, one is low. I mean, you obviously want to get as many shots as you can on frame. And as my wife would say, like, that is my number one pet peeve when guys are not putting the ball on frame. You got to put it on frame. Give it a chance to go in. Guys that skyrocket balls over, not for me. But yeah, one shot on frame is not fantastic, especially if it comes off the face.
Yep. And you miss 100% of the goals you don't shoot. That's Michael Scott.
You nailed it, Wayne Gretzky.
Thank you. But we see the score, which is off Danny Rojas's face.
So good.
So good. Listen, there is something about the way they CGI a soccer ball hitting someone in the face. I don't remember what it's called, but there's an old comedic group that I think is out of like BYU, and they do the soccer
Scott
one.
Sterling.
Yeah, Scott Sterling just getting hit in the face with a soccer ball repeatedly. That clip is outrageously funny. Like, anyways, that's what this reminded me of. But they celebrate the tie because you can tie in soccer and it doesn't start the apocalypse, correct?
It's a big point against one of the big teams in the Premier League that they were not destined to do very well in. And I do like that we get the cut of Rebecca then coming back to the stands and then Higgins asking like, oh, well, did you sweet talk him? And he's like, no. What's the opposite of that? And then Keely coming in with sour yell. I like that.
Which is a great way of describing what she did to Zava in the urinal. Yes. Oh, man. Did you see this coming? We have the press conference of Zava, and he ends up, spoilers, not joining Chelsea or West Ham, but he joins Richmond, even though I don't think they've told him a number or any type of contract stuff, so I feel like we're overcommitting a little bit soon. Mm-hmm. But did you think he was going to end up with Richmond?
I feel like after Rebecca kind of flipped the script a little bit and kind of threw the gauntlet and challenged him, it kind of made it seem like, yeah, that was going to be the twist to this, especially as happy as Rupert was watching from his phone in his limo or whatever, to see him get foiled here was great. And again, I think the dynamic and how it's going to change this team, for the better or the worse, I think will be interesting to watch.
Right. I'll be on record. I don't think this is going to be a good time. It would be funny if the show's just like Zava shows up and he's like huge on mental health and he's like a great teammate and
right.
goes out of his way. And that would be the surprising twist of this show, which I would appreciate. But it feels like Jamie's, once again, kind of the last guy on board here, or at least skeptical.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even cut to him, and his line is like, ooh, the fans are not going to like this. And then they cut to the locker room, or not the locker room, but the pub, and everybody's cheering. They're doing Zava chants already. So they're digging it, and he seems upset. And like we mentioned throughout the whole episode, every mention of Zava, Jamie is a little bit skeptic. So I'm sure the two of them are going to go at it in the next episode or two.
Sure. We're in the coach's office. Roy dramatically sets the article on fire, and then he blows the ashes away, and they float out the window, and then they turn into doves. And then one dove is flying with an olive branch in its mouth, and then we fade to black as the word peace and love cuts across the screen. I think that's how it ended. I don't know. I was pretty drunk. No, Roy tears up the article and then has a conversation with Trent Krim and Ted where he talks about his last year at Chelsea and like slowing down and like realizing he's slowing down. And his decision was, rather than be like one of those old guys that plays too long, which I don't watch the Premier League, but I see this in the NFL all the time. They just hold on too long. And so he decided to, like, he surprised everyone and bounced. And Ted makes some comment about, some people would rather quit than be fired. And so I guess I'm interested on your thoughts on how you read into this, because Roy's like final comment is, as I was there today, like in the stadium at Chelsea, I thought maybe I should have stayed and just enjoyed myself. Like even though I wasn't playing at my peak, I could have stayed. I would have enjoyed myself, just like accepted where I was in my career. And he's like, but that's not who I am. And Ted very, very nicely says, not yet. Showing the growth. And so the only parallels I could draw from this is I think Roy is going to leave Richmond and go play for Chelsea. And that's exactly what these parallels are. Am I right, Tom? Is that what I was supposed to draw from this conversation?
I don't think so. And I probably didn't catch this on my first watch, like the idea, like, and even Trent Krim says it at the very end here about like sport being the metaphor. And it certainly is, because, and it's more so with Keeley and their relationship of Roy is, because we still haven't really gotten an answer as to why Roy is pushing Keeley away, but he is. So just like he kind of pushed Chelsea away and didn't enjoy himself, even though it might have been challenging and a tough moment, he chose to quit and to move on and do something else. And I think that's kind of what he's doing with Keeley now. So I like this little parallel that they kind of draw, and I think ultimately it will be Roy recognizing that, yeah, he's not this person now. He wasn't this person when he left Chelsea, but, Ted saying not yet, you still can't turn this around, make things better with Keeley and, enjoy yourself and the time that you have with Richmond.
Sure. Yeah. If she leaves you in the end, but you can enjoy the time you spend together. That's a great, great point. They can be pandas and lions together.
Good callback.
It was a great episode. I laughed a lot. I enjoyed it on the second watch. Once again, it just felt like classic Lasso. And so we talked about it at the top. But I really enjoyed this episode, and I hope this is how the rest of the season goes in terms of just the themes. And this is why we love Lasso. And to your point, and now that you think about it, like Ted is not in a lot of this episode.
No.
But when he is in there, we see him being, that force for good, like, directing Roy to make things right with Trent, this last conversation. And I think there's an interesting beat at the end where like Jason Sudeikis is kind of, like, we didn't have the question of why am I here? I think he can almost see like these conversations as why he's still needed here. And to your point, maybe they'll get to a point where they don't need him and he can go back to Henry. But no, I very much enjoyed this.
Yeah, it was great. And to your point, like, I think the first two episodes, they've really dialed up the humor and the jokes. And we've always loved the season one jokes and being peppered in and letting guys like Roy, guys like Beard, guys like Jamie just play and have their fun little one-liners and quips. And having all these characters together so often has been fun. And there is not a storyline currently going on that I am not in for outside of maybe some of the Nate stuff. So to your point, that's probably why we like this episode the most, because it didn't focus on the hatred or whatever it is that Nate's bringing to the table now. But yeah. I'm sure he'll be back.
Nate's Death Star. He's just so poopy. Anyways, thank you for those of you that are still listening. We appreciate you. Those of you that engage and connect with us, we very much like hearing from you. You can reach out to us if you haven't at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. Tom will talk through the other social media stuff since I am currently on a 2-week ban based on my Justice Department. And that's not coming from Tom. That's coming from the Justice Department. They apparently didn't want me to bring up the Dent Act. But Tom, where else can they reach us?
Yes, find us on Instagram, find us at Twitter, at Team Binge, or at Team Binge Podcast. Continue the conversation. Again, we've had some loyal listeners reaching out to us throughout the first couple episodes here. It's been a gas, and can't wait for more. And I think we've got, 12 episodes in this season? So we've got a ride. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, and even though these have been between 40 and 50 minutes, they don't feel like a slog. Like, they move quick. They're, a lot of rapid-fire jokes. So I am appreciating that, and I don't feel like it's dragging at all, which is wonderful. Speaking of dragging and things that are terrible, if you would like to support us, we do have some paraphernalia. Is paraphernalia the right word? It doesn't matter. We have stuff at TeePublic. That's TEE Public. You can get some of our merchandise with the Team Binge stuff on it. And I have one. It's very comfortable. I cut the sleeves and the midriff off, and I mow my yard in it. The neighbors have complained, but the Justice Department told me I am all good. So...
Just to be fair, they did not complain about your shirt, just how low you cut it.
Yes. Okay. And it might have been the pants that I turned into cut-off jean shorts. And my New Balance. My Never Nude. There's dozens of us. Anyways, the next episode that we will be talking about is Season 3, Episode 3 of Ted Lasso. And Tom, it is called...
Zava Nice Day.
Zava Nice Day. Zava's Day. I love it. All right. I have been Julian.
And I've been Coach Tom. Until next time, everybody.